All right, good afternoon. I hope you guys are not too hungry because I want to try to keep you guys here as long as you're interested in the topic. My name is Pat. I work for a company called Imperium. So we provide mobile security solution to protect mobile phones and mobile applications. Today, I want to spend a little bit of time to share with you some of the things that might go wrong if you guys are going into a mobile application development journey. Probably already have been doing it for some time, maybe just new to this space. For me, I recently moved or relocated to US. So I grew up in Australia. So if you find accents a little bit funny, please don't hold that against me. I spent 10 years working in Singapore, working with many of the customers there, and then recently settled in Dallas. Before I got into this role, I was technical like you guys. I was a developer. How many of you guys are actually developer here? Please just show a hand. Okay, great. So I was like you guys. Clearly, I wasn't doing a good job. So I became a pre-sales consultant. So providing solutions and help people solving problems. Then, because I was doing such a good job, the headquarters says you better come here and run product management. So that's sort of how I got there and got here today. So if you guys not heard of like Imperium before, you probably maybe some of you are old enough to know about this company called Wiley Technology. How many of you guys actually heard of Wiley Technology? Just curious. Okay, so thank you. I think you have the experience, I can tell. So before the word observability came about, there are companies today like Dynatrace, AppDynamic, New Relic, right? So the founder of those companies actually came from Wiley, and I was the one who was helping people learning about their application performance and then helping them monitor and perform better. Now, I'm in a security company. My motto and the goal is really to help people supporting and protect mobile devices and obviously protect mobile application. So today, I know the talk is a little bit, maybe some people say, hey, you gotta have AI in your subject because otherwise no one will show up. But I think something that's very passionate from a developer become a consultant, now working on the product side is all about how do we really implement security into your life cycle? A lot of people say, hey, we do DevOps and we do DevSecOps. Some people say, no, that's not right because security should be in the front. So this will be the most boring part, okay, of the conversation because it doesn't really matter, right? You probably practice some of these security practices today in your development environment. But one thing that's for sure I can tell you is there's a lot of security, but probably all the securities are on the left-hand side. Now, let me explain to you why. If you talk about AppSec, right, people think about source code scanners. People think about third-party component library scanning. You do as much as you can before you go live. However, on the right-hand side is where we're seeing application security, application attack is really happening. Because regardless what you do, how much scanners you do, how much tickets or incident and problem you find you fix. I use this analogy, you go to the hospital, do a health check comes back fantastic. The next day, you get sick. Because whatever you do is not going to help you, protect yourself after the application goes out, gets released. So my focus today is really to have a balanced view of this notion of DevOps, DevSecOps, but where security should really sit. And as a developer here, right, who should really own security? Because I believe everybody should play a part. Now, before we go any further, I will be doing a live demo of an application. Usually, when I do this in San Francisco, I think I pick an app from the other side of the country. But since I'm new here, I don't want to upset anyone. I'll pick an app from Australia for demo, okay? So I won't upset anybody, hopefully. There's no Aussies here, hopefully. But the reality of application security and protection today is actually not as great as you might think, right? So there are different security layers, right? Code protection, this is how we can go about obfuscate your source code, protect against reverse engineering. The data that our application now process, access, maybe store, are also something that's very, very critical because that's how data leakages happens today. And you probably don't want your company's name or maybe your name on that blog article. Runtime protection, right? So these days, there's a lot of solutions out there that can help people manipulate their devices, jailbreak their devices. I talk about it sometimes. People look at me and say, who still jailbreak their phone these days? Right? I think it's a kind of old thing, but in the security world, people are trying to manipulate your environment so they can do something that maybe learn more about your application, maybe take advantage of what your app is doing to the backend, APIs, keys, etc., and then try to attack your backend. Because your app is now the window into the application. And then last one is about cryptography. I get this all the time. I was actually talking to a very well-known company that you guys will probably, if you use Android, you have their app on their phone. They were telling me the AES key that they use for protecting some of the sensitive machine learning models and stuff like that is actually hard-coded and somewhere in the app. Now, ask yourself a question, right? How do you protect that? Because anybody can get access to your app. If you give them enough time, they'll find the key. If they know the key, they can decrypt some of your intellectual property, right? So again, things, not a lot of the application out there actually have this protection. You might ask, right, how do you know, Pat? Because as Imperium, we actually scan millions of applications that's published to the store publicly on Apple and Google. We actually provide a platform to do this kind of assessment and help customers protect their application and mobile devices. Now, let's go and learn a little bit more. I like this one because when I was developing code a while back now, you can see the gray hair. Security is never my focus. I always have people behind my back and say, we need to release that Friday. You need to finish everything. And security guys maybe comes in and say, oh, that's not good, that's failing, slowing down my releases. So I think a lot of the focus for the development team is never about security. I'd probably go and ask ChatGPT now, how do I do some security check? How do I check for maybe accessibility? Because people are abusing accessibility now. How do I check for that? How do I protect against that? But the reality is that the security team and the product owner and compliance and regulators, they all have different roles to play. And the best part is the bad guy is also getting better, right? You guys using ChatGPT now to help improving or generative AI in general. They also have their tooling. They also have ways to attack, reverse, manipulate your application at the speed of where the developments are. Now, if you're not familiar with the mobile ASVS, this is something that has been adopted by many of the organizations as a best practice. Because by following this framework, you actually help you understand how critical is my application. Is it handling transactions? Is it payment involved? Is a sensitive PII in there? If you guys don't do anything today, this is a good starting point. In fact, if you have a mobile application today, after the talk, please come to our booth. We can actually offer you a 30-day trial to scan your application against these different standards, just by you uploading the application or give us a URL on the public store. We'll give you a report and also help you understand where are the problem and risk. Now, I've got to move up a little bit because I think I only have 20 and people are getting hungry. So, how many of you guys use source code scanning tools like today, right? So there's some of you, but you guys don't scan code, or you don't know what that is? Okay, you got a little bit with some capability. Okay, so the question for you is, you do source code scanning, but do you do application binary scanning? As in, do you give your complete compile application code to someone maybe typically is pen testing, right? But you don't actually have the same amount of testing and rigorous thing when you assemble the application together. So a lot of people ask me, we already use source code scanning like Snyk, synopsis, check marks. Why do I still need to scan? My analogy is scanning source code is like scanning the ingredient. There's a little bit of theme here as you go through. Australia, I think they started the MasterChef TV program, which is now very popular. Some of the cooking stuff will be referenced here. So source code scanning is basically checking the ingredients are actually fresh, they're the right produce, location, etc. And when you finish cooking the dish, you give it to the pen tester, or sometimes maybe not even the pen tester, you give it to the customer. They'll taste the dish for you. So what we are talking about in terms of mobile application scanning is probably is a good idea before you hand over this over-seasoned dish or pasta maybe is not al dente. You can verify that while cooking. And this is a practice called mobile application security testing. Rather than looking at the source code, you are testing every time you do a build. Maybe this is nightly build, maybe it's a weekly build as you add new features. And you can find problem earlier, which we know, right, as a developer, find problem earlier means fixing problem earlier. Now, scanning is great, right? We already know that. I know you guys already have too many scanners overwhelming with tickets and defects. But I think really the important part is what happens when the application is released. Now, how do you know if the dish you're given out, right, on this user's devices is actually problematic and is causing trouble? And this is where I wanted to bring your attention to application security in the real world, right? Because whatever we do on the left-hand side is where we are trying to make the application as secure as possible. So what do? We encrypt the data, we make certificate pinning as a requirement, we're making sure that we build a very secure application. But when the application runs on the device, this device is controlled by someone else, by the user. They probably have outdated operating system, maybe already have malware, maybe is rooted or jailbroken. So what happened is that the compromised device allow and weakens your application security if you don't have any capability to be aware of the environmental risk. The things that we see a lot these days, where recently I came from Singapore, there's a lot of fraud taking place right now, where fraudsters installing a malware on the user's phone, and while the user's sleeping, they're unlocking, the malware is unlocking the phone, launching the application, logging into the app, transfer money out of the application. And this is how what we call outside-in attack. The notion of not understanding the environment is really creating a problem for a lot of the developers. People actually ask me, hey, I do much more secure application, I have biometric. If you just Google, there's a malware that bypasses that. And now, deepfake is actually a big thing now, right? People can try to learn about you and then maybe create a profile. So, static threats are basically anyone who can take application that's published to the store today, they can download it, they can decompile it, and they can look into the application. And if they're good enough, maybe they spend enough time, they can even modify the application and put it onto a third-party store or deliver this through a phishing attack to users. I was talking to one of the company earlier, media company. They build an application for subscription-based. So today, I don't know if you know, even your applications are maybe being cracked. People are maybe bypassing the paywall and able to get access to your subscription or features that you don't want people to be able to use for free. So I think what's really important is because your application is out there, you don't know what's going on, you might have this type of risk. I hope your app is not on here and no one's from Pixar. Okay, now, so I want to do a quick hands-on exercise. So for those of you, since we are at Android conference, we will do an app on Android. And if you guys are familiar with Java or Android application is essentially compiled into bytecode, and it's quite easy for people to actually reverse. So over here, I have an application. In fact, we can do it with any application that's publicly available. So I'm taking one government application from down under, and I'm going to drag and drop that APK file directly into a utility. So as you can see here, right, a few minutes later, the application has now been decompiled, and I can see this source code. So what does this tell you? If I just open up some of the applications here, we can see application being decompiled within just this simple drag and drop. So what can I do here? there's actually a lot of things I can do because I have a search function. Okay? So a lot of the time, as I remember I was talking about, I'll hide this now because probably you don't want to know, but developers typically keep API keys, endpoint URL. The best one I see is development environment, test environment, production environment, configuration. And once you have this information in the app and you don't protect it, it's very easy for people to locate them because you might say, my app doesn't do anything. Everything's on the server. Yeah, well, how do I find out where the server is? How can I go and find data? How can I get into your maybe test environment and try to figure out the next level of attack? So this is an area, right, that I wanted to just make sure developers are aware of. It's very easy that you can develop app and you can very quickly roll out capability, but if the app is not protected, keys and tokens and secrets and things like that are actually very vulnerable. Now, I can also do a lot of things here. So I can search for if the application actually have jailbreak detection. And looks like this application is leveraging Firebase. So I can see it, right? Because I actually decompile the code, and then I can see what signature or patterns the application is checking. Now, think about this, right? An attacker is trying to run your application on the jailbroken or rooted device. If that's all you're checking, then it's very easy for them to bypass and then get over to the next step. So again, something that you really need to think about and very easy to do. Now, I hope if you guys are interested, you can come over. We can do, with your permission, we can take a look at your app and help you guide it. But I wanted to take this app and just show you what we have done, right? So as a solution provider, I don't want to just scare you. I actually have a version of the application you see here that's protected. Okay, so I'm going to take over here. I'm going to go and run a new version. Okay, I'm going to now put it on the right-hand side. Okay, and then let's open up the protected version. And particularly, I just wanted to show you that build config file that we were looking at earlier, right? And now if you search, that file is no longer accessible. So when we apply the protection, we can identify areas of weaknesses and things you want to protect, and we essentially can encrypt those files and store it somewhere on your application packages. And this gives you the ability at least to slow down the attacker and help you protect things that you don't have to write any lines of code. This is basically a capability. You can just spit the APK to us, and then we will take care of the rest. Okay, I think just for timing purposes, let me go back. So static reverse engineering is very easy, and it's very problematic for people if you don't have a protection on your application. Now, I just wanted to emphasize one thing, because when you saw the protection before, you saw there's a lot of classes that's being renamed to something that's not easy to read. So this is what RA and the open source tool can give you. But even though if you do that, the source codes are still visible, right? So if you guys are using ProGuard and RA, it's a good starting point. But you probably want to think about how you can protect those source code level information. Now, okay, well, I should have put down the Kotlin multi-platform because I think that's the hot things right now. Not sure if you guys use any of these hybrid framework. A lot of the time, people ask me, so native app not so good, how about hybrid? Actually, they're just different, right? They leverage different type of code. For example, React Native, all the logics in JavaScript, so you wanted to protect those. In Flutter, you have different Dart and snapshots. So still, I think the concept that we are trying to talk about here is to understand where all your important information is stored and have the ability to apply protection and be aware of it. Now, runtime is the interesting part because a lot of people say, hey, I use security solutions already. I have DLL file binary, cannot be reversed very easily. Then what the attacker would typically do is find a jailbroken device. And if you guys look at GitHub under the project Magisk, have you guys heard of Magisk as a tool? Awesome. So Magis is a community, open source community that provides ability to root or compromise the Android device. There's 300 plus developers contributing to that project. Just ask yourself, how many developers or security people do you have in your company that focus on protecting your application? People are moving a lot faster. So now, if I have a jailbroken device, I can then run software to introspect or continue to instrument the application to see what your application is doing. If you're doing bypass SSL pinning, I can bypass it with one line of code, right? If you're doing some of the data encryption, AES, the tooling are now so sophisticated they can dump the keys. So this is, again, right, a new world that a lot of the people are now facing. Again, how do you protect against that? If you are checking jailbreak and routing using a Firebase SDK with 10 different checks, you're probably not going to catch the Magis tooling. And this is where a company like us can work with your developer and help you secure your application a lot better. Now, this is an example. So we actually do this for demo as well. If you have an app, have a root detection, we can run the tooling, we can hide the root, and then we can run the application again. And you can see here, this is an application that was detecting the routing. And now, after we hide it, the root detection is now bypassed. And this is how a lot of the people are trying to basically reverse engineer and understand your application. So here I'm just showing very quickly some toolings out there. You can select features on different information you want to instrument, because once I can own the process and run this kind of script, I have total control of your application. I can change authentication method. I can change many things that are important to you. Now, the last bit is data. Applications are processing data, storing data into many different locations. Sometimes this is a bad example. It's a COVID application developed by one of the Asian government that they essentially leak everything into the file system. So one thing that's important, and the concept I wanted to share with you is this notion of better encryption. Because if you have encryption key in your application, you're using standard encryption, most likely people find the key can do something about it. If you haven't heard of white box, this is one of the software technique where we can take the key of your algorithm, we can make it scramble it, make it difficult to reverse, and then we can create this library around the application where when someone's trying to look into your application, look at the memory, they won't be able to see anything useful. Right? So that's a technique that can be implemented. And if you probably thinking about, oh, I use keychain, I use hardware backed key store, yes, that actually is a much better mechanism than just using software. But if you're dealing with PCI compliance, payment, different cryptography operation, the key store is not going to help you. So you need something a little bit more sophisticated. So if you're interested, you can always drop by. Now, I wanted to move quickly here. The white box sort of concept, again, using the cooking analogies, you have secret recipe you want to protect, right? Obviously, you don't want to write it down because people can find it. So what we do is we will put your recipe into a pre-mixed sauce, and you sell the sauce because people might be able to taste what you have in there. They'll never know what's in the recipe. I think Coca-Cola was going to come and talk to us about how to keep their secret, but I think it's too late. Everybody's got it now. Okay, so the last thing before I finish off the talk, and hopefully still have some interest, is this understanding of observability. Remember, I started with monitoring. I think one thing that's very big that's lacking today is this notion of application security observability. How do you know if someone is running a jailbroken device with your app? How do you know if someone's actually hooking the application, injecting stuff into memory? How do you know if the phone or the device that's running the app has malware in there, right? So those are the kind of thing that, you really help your business understand the risk. Because today, I probably can be sure, right? If you have some security today, if a device is rooted, shut down the app. And the customer calls and say, hey, I can't use the app. And you have no answer to tell them, right? But with the observability, you can actually correlate the event and you can say, oh, I can see you have this malware, your device is compromised, I know you're using Magisk, right? And that improves the whole customer experience and security conversation as well. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to give you guys before we finish, actually, just a 10-second of product overview. So we actually provide you a platform. All the things that I talk about, right? Reverse engineering, runtime monitoring, detection, and observability is delivered through our platform. If you're interested, please come and talk to us. And the last thing I wanted to emphasize is security and speed. People say cannot be together. I don't think that's true, because we implemented this in one of the largest banks in the US. We have this in a lot of the critical application. One of the applications you use on your phone for streaming movies, those applications have very sensitive speed performance requirement, and yet security was important enough for their business. All right? And I believe the way in this application economy world today, when you want to differentiate yourself, features and functions not going to help you differentiate. Security is one of the consideration. Now, last thing I wanted to leave you with is you see this guy running thing here. So one of my mentor actually told me one thing before. So I just want to ask the question. If a bear is chasing you, what would you do? For people who heard of the joke, maybe you can hold back, but anyone wants to take a try? If a bear is chasing you right now, what would you do? Run? What about you? Play dead? Okay. It's a 50-50. You might get caught. Yeah? Anyone else want to try? Huh? Chase the... Oh, wow. So you are playing... You're trying to be bigger than the bear. Okay. So I think the whole joke, and you're thinking like, why is this related to the talk? When the bear is chasing you, actually what you need to do is you want to run faster than the person next to you. Okay, so now, coming back to security, I do this all the time. The motto is, your competitor and yourself. You guys will always, there will always be that. So you just want to make sure you do a little bit more security to make the attacker look at the app and say, oh, you know what? There's some security, too hard. Let me go and move on to the next one. And that is something I want to leave you with. But if you find any of these topics interesting, please come around to the Zimperium booth. We have people here, and we'd love to share a little bit more about how we can help you secure the application. Thank you so much. Hopefully this was interesting and useful for you all. Thank you.